I never thought we'd see the day. This is the final episode of Obsessed with Assessment podcast.
We need like a special theme tune.
That's right, dear listeners. After 10 months and 35 episodes, we are drawing the show to a close. I have received a new calling in life and will be heading into different waters, which means that Emma's role as sidekick has also become surplus to requirement. My name is Sam Denno and I am the assessment lead at Twinkl Educational Publishing. Although not for much longer, I have worked in the education industry for 15 years. I can add another year now, as both a secondary English teacher and as an innovator in EdTech. And for the final time, my co-host is Emma Rose-McHale.
You made that sound like you were like, not for much longer, like you were going somewhere that you didn't want to go, but you're not. You're going to an exciting role still within Twinkl.
Still within Twinkl, yeah.
You're not leaving us just yet. Yes, and I am Emma, and I've worked at Twinkl for 8 years. I keep second guessing myself when I say this, and I've been a teacher for 12. So hopefully, I bring the primary expertise to Sam's secondary. During my time in the classroom, I was the assessment lead for non-core assessment, which I found more interesting than the maths and English assessment. And I'm glad I've been able to talk about it. And at Twinkl, I lead on our STEM subject strategies.
That's different detail than you've included before.
Maybe.
So 35 episodes in, still providing fresh content.
Give the people what they want.
This is then the last episode, as I keep on saying. So we're going to use it to reflect on everything that has gone before. The ultimate aim of the podcast has always been to offer CPD opportunities for educators by providing short assessment stings for you to reflect upon. We'll talk about some of the greatest hits here, so there will be some signposting to those conversations along the way, but mostly this is the chance to just say goodbye and wrap things up. The podcast was actually the brainchild of my erstwhile co-host Paul Duffy. He and I had been handed assessment lead roles in primary and secondary, respectively. And while we both had a basic understanding of the field, we were keen to brush up on our knowledge, and we decided that we were going to do that live on a podcast.
What could go wrong?
Well, we thought that we could just take other educators with us. And so it's worked out, really. But 9 episodes in, Paul was headhunted and I was handed responsibility for assessment across all of the key stages, EYFS up all the way up to Key Stage 4. And suddenly I needed a new co-host. Can you remember how I approached you, Emma, at all?
Well, I think we were already working together.
Yeah.
And I think I had already mentioned that I actually quite enjoyed assessment. Like I enjoyed assessing, and I felt like, and I'd already done a lot of the, like I say, the non-core assessment stuff as a bit of a specialism. I briefly taught part of the PGCE course as well, and I always made one of my at Leeds, and I always made one of my modules like about good quality, like non-core assessment in the classroom. So it was something that I was interested in already. I had never done a podcast though.
No. Do you like it?
Yeah. Really nice change to it. I can say that because I don't spend my whole week doing it. I suspect people who do a lot of kind of voice recording stuff, this is just a day in, day out. For me, it's a really nice change from what I'm doing, which is always good.
So when you first came on, it was a nice, it freshened things up for one thing, because me and Paul, it was just two two middle-aged men talking. But also, you can talk, Emma. You're really good at talking, and I can throw a question at you.
I have been told that before, and not always as a compliment, so...
But I can throw a question at you that you've not even thought, like, you don't even know it's coming, and I can throw it at you, and you come back with some, like, amazing comment and like, nice anecdotes as well.
I shall write that on my performance review.
That's right, yeah. So... as we've built our authority in the assessment podcast space, it's become easier for me to get specialists on the show. And actually, it's been a real treat to be able to talk to some seriously intelligent people, not just me and Emma. But the bulk of the episodes have been two-headers between me and you, Emma. Are there any standout episodes?
I really liked the ones where I felt like we were adding commentary to your existing expertise episodes. So the ones you did with Mick.
Yeah, Dr. Mick Walker.
So I really like the ones that we did off the back of your Mick Walker interviews, because I felt like we had like a definite piece to talk about. The one that will stick in my head is the one where because they were my team and I was really proud of them, where we brought in Sapphire from secondary maths and Sally, who's my digital maths lead, into talk about assessment. And I think they did a really good job, and they did their research, and it was really, really just felt very refreshing.
Yeah, I thought that was a brilliant episode, and it took. I think it took us both by surprise, because you were
lovely.
A bit sort of cautious, like, these team members, I don't know how good they are at talking. And then just they came out with the most incredible insights and really, really valuable information and spoke so well.
Yeah, just, podcasting is a weird thing to go into, and you feel like you've been obviously listened to, even though there's no audience.
Yeah.
Sat there while you're talking, and I was like, it's nice professional development for them. Let's give it a go. And I'm really glad we did, because they both did a very good job.
Yeah.
We gave them a little internal shout out that week as well on our newsletter.
Oh, good. Oh, win. I really enjoyed actually the very first episodes that you and I did together, it was the Nordic ones, Denmark, Finland, Norway.
Course, yeah.
And so chronologically, we recorded those three back to back, I think, if I remember correctly. They don't actually appear back to back in the sequence on the thing. But like I say, that felt like it was the first time that you'd been on. It felt your internet signal was a heck of a lot better than Paul's ever was. And so that meant that we were suddenly able to like bounce ideas around and riff off each other a little bit more like I'd never been able to do with Paul, because it was all really
smoothed
staged out. yeah. We've always attempted to offer key takeaways. We didn't want the show to just be about us waffling. Overall, have there been any really important things about assessment that you've been able to take away from the experience?
100%. Like, they're not the things that I wouldn't say like I had like a revelation, like, but there were certainly things that I got, do you know what, I wish I had done that more, even though I was probably aware of it. One of the things definitely was the planning of the assessment into your work, whether or not that's, your ad hoc assessment in the lesson, whether it's summative, formative, like really think about what you're trying to get out of it. So am I giving them this test because my school has done this test every year at this exact same time of the year? Or am I giving them it because I'm going to get something from it? Like, what's the reason for the assessment is the big takeaway, I think.
Yeah, I've made a list of 2, and that was the top one on mine, which is the purposes of the assessment. And I suppose that falls under validity as well, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
The purposes of assessment, so that you are running and tailoring an assessment towards that purpose. And actually, I don't know if you've listened to this episode, Emma, one that I recorded with James Speedle from Cambridge Assessment Network a couple of weeks ago. It was a few weeks ago now. But he was talking about, yes, so you can use formative and summative assessments to serve the same function, but why would you, if you know what their purpose is, actually tailor your test to be a formative assessment and to be a summative assessment? And I think one of the interesting things about talking about assessment, in the process of articulating it, you're not saying things that you didn't know before in many circumstances, but by articulating it, you reflect upon it and actually then begin to embed it.
It has felt like reflective practice on, I guess, my old teaching practice, which isn't actually that useful now to me, but hopefully it will be useful to somebody else who hears us talking about it.
Yeah. The other one that I really liked doing with you was the understanding better how our brains work episode, like the one about metacognition, where we were thinking about, okay, so spaced practice, distributed practice and retrieval practice and those things. How do people's brains work? How do people's brains work?
And how that led into the best way to revise and stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I thought that was, again, it wasn't, we weren't saying anything that we maybe didn't know, but by articulating it, it was quite useful just to kind of have that down. And then in terms of guests, we've had an exciting set of names coming through the doors. Now I have, it's remiss of me, but I was always selfish with the guests. I generally didn't let Emma in.
No.
So John and Sophie Gaston from rival podcast The Exam Man, that was a fun conversation that we had. They were my first guests, and that, in fact, that was in between Paul leaving and you arriving, so it was like it was an episode where I thought, oh, thank goodness I've got someone to talk to. But then you mentioned Dr. Mick Walker, who I met at a curriculum and assessment roadshow. So always with guests, it was, okay, so it's a 20 minute format. Come in, talk for 15 minutes, and then I'll edit it and make it all podcasty. Mick came in having been told that we were going to talk for 15 minutes. And I think the interview lasted 3 hours.
I remember this. We had to cut it down into pieces, didn't we, afterwards?
Yeah. It was unbelievable. And I kept saying, Mick, we can stop anytime you want. But he just, once you wound him up, he had so many insights and anecdotes and all the rest of it. It was, absolute gold. So like you say, we used that a few times, 2 or 3 times. You and I sort of discussed after the event of what he said. We had an academic, Dr. Lewis Doyle, came in to talk about marking bias. And that was fascinating. And then Daisy Christodoulou, Emma was very cross that actually you weren't cross. You said I'd like to help with the interview, and I didn't invite you.
I feel like we'd referenced Daisy so much.
And then James Beadle, Cambridge Network Assessment. I've mentioned him. Sarah Gotting and Amy Jones from OCR came in not so long ago, and you've mentioned that really lovely chat with Sally Cole and Sapphire McDonald from Twinkl. We also had Jack Wardle from Twinkl as well, and of course you on the STEM episode, the Sally and Sapphire one. You came as guest. You're on the other side of the table on that occasion.
One of the ones that I wasn't involved in that I did like listening back to was the Daisy one about comparative marking, because I was a user of No More Marking when I was in school, and it's like I always quite like that, like snapshot side by side. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed doing that, so it was nice listening to somebody talk about it. Good.
Actually, No More Marking, very interesting. They've got interesting stuff going on at the moment where they're bringing AI into it, and it's quite exciting watching what Daisy's doing and sort of reading her blog and so on. And then various assessment in the news episodes as well, including the STEM one was assessment in the news. I think what we felt was, so whilst assessment is full of sort of huge concepts that are worth talking about and worth reflecting on a regular basis, but also it's a live thing.
Yeah, I mean, every year I feel like it's a big thing. Every single year we hear about GCSE results in the news, this year, for the first time ever, girls outperform boys in this, or boys outperform girls in this. That, we get those headlines every year, don't we?
Yeah. So we felt like that sort of like live update, what is happening right now, was really important.
And we were spoiled for choice a little bit because the curriculum and assessment review is happening.
Precisely, yeah. And what a shame that we're ending it before sort of the results of that, because there's so much more that we could say.
We could do like a Gavin and Stacey or The Office, where we do, instead of a Christmas special, we have a curriculum and assessment review special.
Oh, that would be nice. Yeah, they'll be queuing up for it, Emma. What's coming up next for you, Emma?
Cracking on with STEM. Here's my thing, talking specifically about assessment. I do think that doing this with you as podcast has meant that I am thinking more about the assessment parts of the schemes that we're putting out. So it's quite an exciting time for us in that we've got whole new schemes of work appearing on site. So assessment's going to feed into that, hopefully, which will be really nice.
Good. And so for me, the reason that I'm moving on from this is that I have started a role at Twinkl. So I have been the national lead for England in assessment, and there's an opportunity that's opened up for me to be the national lead in England for secondary English, which is my foundation. I am a secondary English teacher. So I am moving across into that role. But as you say, this has been so informative doing this that actually there is still a lot that can be done with assessment within secondary English. And I'll be working quite closely with our strategic partners, Educate, attempting to build a more integrated teaching, learning and assessment cycle.
And it's quite exciting that that's a lot of their stuff is very science heavy at the minute as well. So I get to pop in and see you every so often doing that as well, which is very nice.
Yeah. I suppose what I would say about the podcast though is it will remain here forever. What we see most of the content that we have produced is evergreen. There is the assessment in the news material, but actually most of the episodes are big assessment concepts that will have relevance for forevermore. So they'll stay here. Please listen in. Please continue to use it for your CPD opportunities. And if you want to dig deeper into the world of assessment, these episodes aren't going anywhere. You can also, the mailbox has not closed down, so you can also still contact us on assessment@twinkl.co.uk, and I will pick up any emails that are sent to that and respond to them. You can reach me still on LinkedIn. My name is Sam Denno. Look for me on LinkedIn. Emma?
I'm not, Emma Rose-McHale. I do have people do contact me on LinkedIn quite often, so feel free to do so.
Well, it's been an absolute delight, Emma. Thank you so much for joining me in this journey.
It has been very nice to dig into something that I think probably was a secondary thought when I was fully in the classroom. So it's been nice to think about it more, bring it to the forefront.
And thank you so much, listeners. Thank you for joining us on the journey as well. We would not be here if it were not that we were listened to. So it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, as Emma says, in a slightly removed way.
Yeah.
Every week or so. Thanks for listening, and goodbye for now.
Bye.